I thought they'd tire quickly, but they kept going. That single thought lingered in my mind as I leaned against the kitchen counter, nursing a lukewarm cup of coffee, while laughter and shouts rang out from the backyard. It was one of those rare Saturdays where the sun hung lazily in the sky. The breeze was gentle enough to keep everyone comfortable, and time itself seemed to slow down. I had agreed, somewhat unwillingly, to host the neighborhood barbecue. It wasn't that I disliked my neighbors. On the contrary, I liked them well enough. But throwing these gatherings always meant hours of preparation, endless dishes afterward, and wrangling my daughter Emily into helping me tidy up. Still, when she begged me with her wide blue eyes and that playful smile that reminded me so much of her mother, I couldn't say no. By noon, the backyard was alive with activity. The scent of burgers and ribs sizzled on the grill. Red cups filled with soda and lemonade clinked, and conversations rose above the music that played faintly from a speaker on the patio. Neighbors I'd only exchanged quick greetings with in the mornings now lounged in lawn chairs, laughing and telling stories as though we'd all been lifelong friends. But the real spectacle was happening on the grass, where Emily and her best friend Chloe had created their own version of the Olympics. At first, I thought it would last maybe 30 minutes. Emily had always been full of ideas, but rarely did she carry them out for long. I figured she and Chloe would run through their obstacle course a couple of times, get distracted, and wander off to something else. But that wasn't the case this time. They had transformed the backyard into a full-on arena. Hula hoops were lined up as hurdles, jump ropes marked boundaries, and water balloons were stacked like ammunition for a final round that promised chaos. Kids from all over the neighborhood had joined in, their excited shouts carrying over the fence. I watched them with a mix of amusement and disbelief. Sweat glistened on their foreheads, grass stains smeared their shorts, but their energy seemed bottomless. I thought they'd tire quickly, but they kept going. The longer they played, the more intense it became. Soon enough, the parents were dragged in too. "Your turn's coming, Matt," Sarah, my neighbor from 2 houses down, called out with a mischievous grin. She was balancing a cup of lemonade in one hand, clearly enjoying my discomfort. I raised my cup of coffee in mock surrender. I'm strictly on grilling duty. But Emily had other plans. She ran up, face flushed, hair sticking to her forehead, her eyes burning with determination. "Dad, you promised. 1 round. That's all I ask." She had me. I sighed, setting my cup on the counter. "Fine. 1 round." Cheers erupted from both kids and adults. Before I knew it, I was standing in the middle of the obstacle course, trying to ignore the fact that half the neighborhood was watching me. I figured I'd run through it quickly, make a fool of myself, and it would be over. But that wasn't how it went. Emily wasn't letting me off easy. She designed the course to be challenging, and every kid there seemed determined to see me fail. The whistle blew. Chloe's idea, she had brought one just for this event, and I stumbled forward. First was the hula hoop jump, which I nearly tripped on. The kids roared with laughter. Then came the jump rope maze, where I almost lost my footing twice. By the time I reached the water balloon toss, I was panting, sweat dripping down my back, but my daughter was right beside me, urging me on. "Come on, Dad, you can do this." Her encouragement gave me just enough strength to make it to the finish line, though I collapsed onto the grass the moment I crossed. The kids cheered like I'd just won a gold medal, and for a fleeting moment, I forgot how tired I was. There was something contagious about their energy, something that pulled me in deeper than I expected. What I assumed would be a quick round turned into several. They wouldn't let me sit out. Every time I tried to retreat to the grill, Emily or Chloe dragged me back. Other parents got caught too. Sarah, who had sworn she was only there to watch, ended up racing against her husband in a sack race. Even quiet Mr. Peterson, who usually kept to himself, was suddenly the referee, blowing Chloe's whistle with surprising enthusiasm. Hours passed, yet the games didn't stop. I thought they'd tire quickly, but they kept going. The kids didn't slow down, and somehow neither did the adults. The obstacle course turned into relay races, the relay races into tug-of-war, and the tug-of-war into an all-out water balloon battle. The backyard echoed with laughter and shrieks as balloons exploded in bursts of cold water, soaking everyone. By late afternoon, I was drenched, exhausted, and yet strangely exhilarated. The sun dipped lower, casting golden light across the grass, but no one seemed ready to leave. Conversations grew warmer, barriers broke down, and neighbors who once only waved politely now stood side by side, trading stories like old friends. At one point, I caught myself just standing there, watching Emily laugh with Chloe as they tried to dodge a wave of balloons. Her face was radiant, her laughter pure, and for the first time in months, I felt a deep sense of peace. Since her mother passed away 2 years ago, Emily had carried a quiet sadness with her. She smiled less, spoke softer, and often retreated into her room when the world felt too heavy. But today was different. Today she was alive, glowing and free. That realization hit me harder than anything else. I thought they'd tire quickly, but they kept going. And I hoped they would keep going because in that endless laughter, in that relentless joy, there was healing. Not just for Emily, but for me too. The night crept in slowly. Fairy lights strung across the patio flickered on, casting a soft glow. The grill had long since cooled, the food nearly gone, but the spirit of the day lingered. Parents reluctantly gathered their kids, exchanging promises to do this again. No one wanted it to end, but eventually the crowd thinned, leaving only a few of us to clean up. Emily collapsed onto a lawn chair, her hair damp, her clothes stained, but her smile unshakable. "That was the best day ever," she said between breaths. I sat beside her, handing her a bottle of water. "You think so?" She nodded, eyes still sparkling. "Yeah. Can we do it again? Not just once a year. Like every weekend." I laughed softly. Every weekend might be a stretch, but we'll figure something out. Her smile widened, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I'd given her something she truly needed. Not just a game, not just a day of fun, but a reminder that joy could still exist, that life could still surprise us, even when we thought it had nothing left to give. Later that night, when the house was finally quiet, I stood by the window, looking out at the backyard. The grass was littered with broken balloons and forgotten hoops, but I didn't see a mess. I saw life. I saw resilience. I saw a community that had come together because two girls refused to stop playing. I thought they'd tire quickly, but they kept going. And in doing so, they taught me something I didn't know I needed to learn. Sometimes the best moments happen not when you plan them, but when you let them carry on long past the point you thought they would end. And in that endless going, you find the pieces of yourself you thought you'd lost.